Alright, so we're back with another episode. This week we are going to be talking about Starrcade, 1996 Starrcade, WCW's biggest pay-per-view of the year. We'll see if they deliver a good show. We'll just go right into this thing. The opening match here, as usual, is a Cruiserweight title match. It is between Ultimate Dragon and Dean Malenko. To start off, we trade some rest holds. Malenko starts to work on Dragon's leg for a while, and he hits a really nice power slam on Dragon, but later on Dragon's able to hit a nice power bomb for a 2 count. Malenko later hits a jumping tombstone for a 2 count, which the crowd loved that spot. Malenko later on hits a double unhooked power bomb for a 2.5 count, false finish. Malenko at one point tries to crossbody himself and Dragon out of the ring, but Dragon isn't able to quite make it over the ropes.
We do have a certified Scoopy. Dragon is outside the ring and Malenko goes for a baseball slide. Ultimate Dragon ducks out of it and delivers a scoop slam to the outside.
Later on, they get back into the ring and Malenko gets a Texas Cloverleaf on Dragon in the center of the ring. This causes Sonny Ono to freak out and he gets on the apron, which makes Malenko release the hold, and he goes to scare off Sonny Ono, and Dragon tries to sneak a pin, but he only gets a 2 count. Malenko then hits a stalling suplex for another 2 count, and he starts to get frustrated. His frustration ends up getting the better of him because the Ultimate Dragon is able to hit a Dragon suplex shortly after that for the win, and we have a new Cruiserweight champion. For the match overall, very, very good match.
Almost 20 minutes.
Yes, the match was 18 minutes and 30 seconds. WCW, for these Cruiserweight opening matches, they usually knock it out of the park. I would say this was maybe not as good as Dragon versus Rey Mysterio to me, but it is still a good match, and I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Well, sir, I have given this the illustrious mark of a 5-star match. I mean, I liked it better than the Rey Mysterio match because I did not get that 5. This will be, just we're keeping count, third 5-star match I've given out for 96.
I think I have just one, and that was Austin and Brett, Survivor Series. But yeah, fantastic opening match, and a new champion, and I'm fine with the decision to make Ultimate Dragon a champion.
And now he has the J Crown and the WCW Cruiserweight title.
That's a lot of belt security.
A lot of titles.
But we'll go on to our second match, and it is Akira Hokuto with Sonny Ono versus Medusa. Remember they did this women's title tournament match? We saw exactly one match of that tournament, at least on Nitro. So that shows you how much they cared about this championship.
Akira Hokuto was actually in the tournament twice, because she was also a masked character.
Yeah. And so with this being the new women's championship match, you would think maybe this would build to a big moment for Medusa. We'll see if that happens. Hokuto starts off the match by ragdolling Medusa by her hair a few times. I mean, it looks good. It looks rough, real. I bet it did hurt.
Probably, yeah.
Hokuto then puts on the sharpshooter on Medusa, but she isn't able to get Medusa to tap out, so she lets go of it and moves on to a headlock. And Hokuto then goes to grab Medusa's boot, and she starts biting Medusa's foot, trying to bite her foot through the boot. I'm sure Jacob loved that spot.
No, it's like you're not actually doing anything by biting the boot.
But Hokuto continues dominating the match, but Medusa is able to later get in some offense. She hits a tornado DDT, which for some reason Tony Schiavone calls a bulldog. Tony Schiavone, what the fuck are you doing?
Just let Mike Tenay call it.
Yeah, please. Medusa then drop kicks Hokuto out of the ring, and then Sonny Ono comes into the ring and he hits Medusa in the back with the American flag. Hokuto then delivers a missile drop kick followed by a brainbuster for the win. So yeah, this tournament that we all thought was going to crown WCW's full-time women's wrestler Medusa as a champion. No, we're not. It's going to be Akira Hokuto.
I believe she is the only champion. She vacates it in June of 97, but that's not even mentioned on commentary. Hokuto is the only champion that you'll see.
Oh, they're ripping Medusa because they constantly, every turn, they had to make her a star woman wrestler of their company. They fuck it up. They have her lose. I mean, how hard is it to have Medusa be the first champion? I don't understand.
No, it's just terrible booking. It just shows you how disrespected the women were in this era. I'm sure at this point Medusa's like, God, I should have just stayed in WWF.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and I don't think the women's division would have been killed. Vince wouldn't have killed it.
No. And at least they made her a champion. Like, damn.
Yeah.
But for the match itself, I thought it was a pretty decent for a mid-90s women's match. I gave it a 2. What was your match rating?
2 stars.
What did old Dave give it?
Dave's match rating for Dragon and Malenko was 4.5. And then for this one, he gave 1 1/4 star.
But after this match, we go to a backstage interview with Roddy Piper. Piper starts talking about Hogan's size advantage, but he says he's not scared of Hogan. And Mean Gene asks Piper about his injured leg, his injured hip, and Piper demonstrates that he's okay because he leaves the segment hopping on one leg, showing that his leg and hip is just fine. And then that leads us to our third match. It is Jushin Thunder Liger versus Rey Mysterio. We start off the match with a respectful handshake.
I do want to say this is Liger's first pay-per-view appearance in America after his brain tumor.
Oh, really? I didn't know he had one.
Mm-hmm.
Because we saw him
Yeah,
not too long ago.
I know, but he took time off to deal with that.
After the match goes on for a little bit, Liger hits a thunderous power bomb, followed by a suplex that sends Mysterio to the outside. On commentary, though, Dusty Rhodes and Bobby Heenan spend time going back and forth, debating if Liger is a little fatter than last time we saw him.
Yeah, that was strange.
It was a little disrespectful.
Yeah, exactly. He was, but obviously he couldn't condition as well because of illness.
Yeah, I just thought that was very disrespectful, especially, I didn't know about the tumor thing, but now that you said that, that's even more disrespectful. And he looked to be about the same size to me anyway. But just had to say that about the commentary there. But later on in the match, Rey Mysterio hits a release German suplex, which is something we don't see him do often. I don't recall him doing too many Germans.
No.
Mysterio then goes for a dive off the top ropes, but Liger hits a perfect drop kick to Mysterio in midair, and then he hits his own release German suplex for a 2 count. A lot of times when they do the drop kicks in midair for the person jumping off the top rope, they look kind of clunky. This one looked good. And then later on, Mysterio goes for a springboard backsplash, but he misses it, and Liger hits a top rope headbutt for another 2 count. And setting up the finish here, Mysterio goes for a top rope Frankensteiner, but Liger reverses it and hits a rolling kick to Mysterio. I don't know if he has a name for it. But then after the kick, he hits the Liger bomb for the win.
It was a good match. Man, he laid in on some of these power bombs on Mysterio.
This match got 14 minutes, 16 seconds, so another good lengthy match here. This match was good. It wasn't quite as good as I thought it was going to be, but now that you said the tumor thing, you could definitely see why he could be rusty a little bit. It wasn't a bad match at all. I just thought it was going to be a 4-star match. I didn't give it that high of a grade.
That's funny. I did give it 4.
I gave it a 3.
Dave gave it 3 3/4, so he also agrees it was near 4.
But I will point out, though, that if you're keeping score at home, it is Japan 3, USA 0.
That's a good point. I don't think that comes into play the rest of the card.
I just noticed that. But yeah, another good match here. So far, Starrcade living up to the billing here. We'll go to the 4th match, and it is Chris Benoit with Woman versus Jeff Jarrett. This is a no disqualification match. Benoit starts off super aggressive. He starts hitting stiff chops and slapping Jeff Jarrett all over the place. Jarrett gets fed up and knocks Benoit down and does this thing where he walks on the opponent's back. But this time, I noticed he almost tripped. I did see that.
Yeah, he did almost trip.
Benoit doesn't care for Jarrett's games, and he starts chopping Jarrett so hard that Dusty said he is taking the old paint off the woodshed. Later in the match, though, we do see Arn Anderson walk down to the ring, and he walks right by Benoit and Woman, and this brings out the Dungeon of Doom members, Conan and Hugh Morris. They come down to the ring, and they grab Woman, but Woman ain't gonna go down easy. She starts kicking and screaming. She kicks Hugh Morris right in the groin and gets away briefly, but the Dungeon of Doom are able to take Woman away. Jeff Jarrett walks up to Arn Anderson outside of the ring, and Arn isn't here to talk to Jeff Jarrett, so he swiftly hits him with a DDT. As he's doing that, Kevin Sullivan enters the ring with one of those wooden chairs, and he breaks it over Benoit's head. Arn Anderson rolls Jeff Jarrett into the ring. He missed this whole deal that went on. So as Jeff Jarrett is rolled into the ring, he puts his arm over Benoit, and Jeff Jarrett is able to cover Benoit for the win. And after the match, Arn Anderson gets into the ring as Woman makes her way back to the ring. How did she get away from the Dungeon of Doom? I do not know. But then Arn starts yelling at Woman, saying that it is her fault. That's not very nice. It wasn't her fault that she got taken away. So Jeff Jarrett does win this match. After the match, we do have Mean Gene coming to the ring to interview Arn Anderson, but Arn leaves without even speaking, and so does everyone else. So there is no interview for Mean Gene until Deborah and Mongo McMichael come out, and so they have their own interview. But the audio for this interview is really, really bad, and it is hard to hear. They didn't do a good job with whoever's setting up the audio here. But what I heard was Mongo tells Benoit that Woman has him weak. Jeff Jarrett got served up to Benoit on a silver platter, and he still couldn't get the job done. Deborah starts talking her usual trash, and they start booing Deborah. Mongo tells the crowd to shut up while Lady is talking, and Deborah says Nancy, who is Woman, has been rode hard and put up wet, and he says Woman and Benoit are not horseman material, and then she starts talking about how everyone wants her, but they can't have her. After she starts putting herself and Mongo over, they leave, and Gene says that there is trouble within the horsemen, and Nancy and Benoit may be at the root of it. So again, we've had these past few weeks where they try to have these promos saying we're going to be reunited, and yet here we go again. We're having issues. Same old shit.
Yeah. To the match, I liked the finish. I thought it was funny. Arn rolling him in without seeing what happened to Benoit, and then he looks just surprised, the look on his face when Jarrett won.
He's like, what the hell? I just DDT'd this man. But the match is actually pretty decent. I gave the match a 2 3/4 stars.
I gave it 3. And And Dave gave it 3.5, so he liked it the most.
I'm surprised you gave it that high. But after this match, we go to our 5th match of the night, and it is the Outsiders with 6 versus the Faces of Fear, and this is a WCW Tag Team Championship match. And no surprise, Nick Patrick is the referee for this match. During this match, we also see Scott Hall do that little spit routine that he did with the Harlem Heat. He likes doing that. He's trying to build up some heat.
Barbarian hits a powerbomb on Scott Hall, and I thought that was impressive.
I did like at one point in the match, Nash grabbed Ming and Barbarian and he banged their heads together, but Nash forgot that headbutts don't work on those guys. So then Ming and Barbarian then hit a double headbutt on Nash, which is simply devastating. That could have been the finish of the match.
You can't headbutt a Samoan or a Tongan. Won't happen.
And then a double headbutt to Nash. I mean, they're lucky they didn't lose the titles right there.
I was lucky his head wasn't caved in.
Mm-hmm. And then Ming and Barbarian start working over Scott Hall for a while. And on the outside, we see Six chase away Jimmy Hart. And Six even grabs his megaphone and he starts shouting at him with it. I thought that was kind of funny. And then we go back to the match. We see Barbarian get a nerve hold on Scott Hall. And Scott Hall appears to be out. But Nick Patrick, again, he's the referee. He doesn't check on Hall. And it looks like if he did, the match might have been over. But the match, of course, doesn't end there. But Scott Hall is able to soon get back on his feet, and he lands a backdrop on Barbarian. Hall tags in Nash, who gets a big boot on Barbarian, and he goes for the cover. And when Ming comes in, he hits the beautiful elbow drop on Nash to break the pin. But then all 4 men are in the ring brawling, and eventually Hall and Ming go to the outside of the ring, leaving Nash and Barbarian as the competitors in the ring. Nash hits the jackknife on Barbarian for the win, and the crowd definitely likes the finish. They definitely approve of the Outsiders winning this.
I thought it was solid.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty solid match. There wasn't as much shenanigans as I thought there would be. It was relatively clean.
The only shenanigans really was Six coming out to chase Jimmy Hart away, I think.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. But yeah, it was a solid, hard-hitting match. I enjoyed it. I gave it a 3 out of 5.
Oh, I gave it a 2. Dave gave it a 1. He hated it.
Well,
I disagree.
I think he just doesn't like the NWO.
Yeah, it was perfectly fine.
But after this match, we go backstage to Hollywood Hogan and Ted DiBiase. DiBiase says Piper asked for this and he got what he wanted, but he warns Piper that he is going to regret it. Hogan mocks Piper and his kids. Hogan says he is the only icon and Piper's scared of him. And he says he knows Piper's in the building tonight because he saw one of his snot-nosed kids running around trying to bum a quarter for a Coke. Hogan says he's going to put the final stamp on his legacy and show everyone that Hogan made the wrestling business. And Hogan ends the promo laughing at Piper and mockingly asking him what you're going to do. So, decent promo for Hogan, but we'll just move on to the next match here. This is the U.S. Championship match, and it is Diamond Dallas Page versus Eddie Guerrero. The announcers mention everything that DDP has done to Eddie and his family recently, and they lay into the fact that Eddie lost to Diamond Dallas Page, which again kind of foreshadowed who was winning this match to me.
Yeah. DDP hits Eddie Guerrero with a nice clothesline.
There was a smooth sequence where both men were on the top rope and DDP pushed Eddie off the top rope, but Eddie was able to backflip. So DDP jumps, but Eddie catches him with like an inverted atomic drop. I thought it was pretty good. But Eddie then goes for a head scissors, but DDP catches him and spins him around into a huge powerbomb for a 2 count. And then DDP signals for the diamond cutter, but he doesn't go for it. That's one thing I noticed in DDP matches. He'll signal for it, but he won't go for it right away. And then soon after that, though, DDP throws Eddie into the corner. Eddie hits the corner so fast that he rebounds off of the turnbuckle, and then he and DDP collide heads. Eddie rolls out of the ring, and the ref goes to check on him as the Wolfpack come out, and Scott Hall hits the Outsider's Edge on Diamond Dallas Page. And soon after that, Eddie rolls back into the ring, hits the frog splash for the win.
I have a note here that says this is the first pay-per-view win for Eddie Guerrero. It's since we started rewatching.
Oh, congratulations. Long overdue, by the way. But Eddie gets up afterwards and to celebrate, and he clearly didn't see that the Wolfpack had come out. And then we do see Nash and Hall talk to us on the camera. They tell us that Page should have listened to them and should have joined them. And they come back into the ring, and Eddie tries to defend himself against the Wolfpack, but he can't overcome the odds. And Six starts landing all of his kicks that he does on Eddie. And then the Outsiders kind of stand over both of the fallen foes here. And Six leaves with the U.S. title.
Which is funny because the Giant took the title and now Six has it, you know.
But for this match, I think this is the start of turning Diamond Dallas Page face because he just got beat up by the Outsiders. So now we're starting to get into the DDP that gets really over with the crowd. So I like that. This is probably the genesis of that. And the crowd went nuts for some of the high spots in this. I think this was a better match they had than their last one they did. I gave it a 3 out of 5.
My match rating for this was also 3 stars. And I also gave it 3. So we're all in agreement here.
We all agree for once, so that must mean this is a 3-star match. Which a 3 stars is a solid rating.
3 stars. That's hey, if you get a whole night and it's nothing but 3 stars, hey, that's a pretty good night.
Yep. But now we are on to our kind of 2 main event matches here. We get our 7th match of the night. It is the Giant versus Lex Luger. The crowd for this match, they are super hot for this. They are so excited to see this match. The match itself starts off like most Giant matches, with Luger trying to get the Giant off his feet, but the Giant keeps stopping him at every turn. The Giant is able to knock Luger down with clotheslines, and he lands a jumping elbow, and then he kicks Luger in the ribs, which sends him to the outside of the ring. And the Giant just beat him all over the place. Luger is selling like he is in tremendous amount of pain. He just continues to toy with Luger for a while.
We get a scoop slam. Luger scoop slams the Giant. I was really happy to see that.
Yeah, but first, though, when he first tried to scoop slam him, he couldn't because his back gave out, you know?
Yep, the back was a problem.
Then the Giant starts to continuously work over Luger's midsection, trying to get the breath out of him. The Giant gets Luger into a corner. He goes for a splash, but he misses the splash. He does a thing where he lands on the turnbuckle because he jumped so high, so Luger's able to get the Giant in position for the torture rack, but he is simply too injured at this point to get the torture rack on. So the Giant is able to continue getting offense on. The Giant goes for a drop kick, but Luger gets out of the way, and this is when Luger gets his second wind. He lands some punches and clotheslines on the Giant, but he still can't knock this damn Giant down. But Giant gets staggered, and Luger is able to finally get the Giant down after hitting a neck breaker, which led to a big pop. Luger pins the Giant for a 2 count, and the Giant throws Luger off of him to break the pin, and Luger lands on referee Mark Curtis. So Mark Curtis is out, I guess. So Nick Patrick runs down to save this match, and Luger gets the Giant into the torture rack, but Nick Patrick kicks Luger in the leg, causing him to drop the Giant. And if you didn't know by now, Nick Patrick is NWO because it was very blatant. So after the shenanigans by the NWO, we see Sting come to the ring, and we see Luger shove Nick Patrick. After he shoves Nick Patrick, he gets the Giant in the torture rack again until Six comes down, and he kicks Luger, causing him to break the hold. So twice now, he's gotten the torture rack on, can't get the finish. Sting finally makes his way to the ring as the crowd is going berserk. Sting stares at Nick Patrick, and he points the bat at him, and he pushes him with the bat, and Nick falls out of the ring. Sting then leaves the bat in the middle of the ring, and he says something to Luger, and he says something to the Giant before leaving. So the Giant and Luger are on the opposite corners. The bat's in the middle of the ring. We have a race to the bat. Luger is the first to touch the bat, but the Giant stands on the bat so Luger can't pick it up. So Luger does the sensible thing. He low blows the Giant, and then he grabs the bat and he hits the Giant multiple times with it, cracks him on the head and back everywhere, and he then is able to get the pin on the Giant for the win and an insane pop. I think this is the first win over NWO. Huge pop. And actually, it's such a big pop that I'm surprised people don't mention it more as some of the loudest.
I know, right?
Very, very excited crowd here.
The reactions Luger was getting in 96, 97, people don't talk about enough.
No, definitely over. After the match, the announcers are asking us where are the rest of the NWO members, and they really hammer the fact that they did not come out to help them. As the NWO typically does, we only got Six and Nick Patrick coming out, so they didn't send out the heavies like the Outsiders or anything like that. So the announcers are trying to tell us that Hogan left him out to dry. This is also building towards some dissension between the NWO and the Giant. As the Giant leaves the match, he has a very dejected look on his face because he's wondering where all his buddies were. But as far as the match, I thought it was a very fun match. I gave this a 3 stars.
I gave it 2. And Dave also gave it 2. I could see a 3, but I gave it a 2.
It's a free country. I'll allow it. But now we're on to the main event. We have Roddy Piper versus Hollywood Hogan. And he comes out with Ted DiBiase, Vincent, and Miss Elizabeth. And this is non-title, unfortunately.
Very strange that would be non-title.
Yep. We do have Michael Buffer here for the ring announcements. And Hogan comes out first, which is not always a good thing for the champion. But this is not a championship match, so we'll see. When Piper comes out, the crowd erupts once again. And as the match starts, Hogan smacks Piper across the face. And Piper loses it. Sends him into a frenzy. He starts landing some punches on Hogan, and the crowd is loving it. Hogan sends Piper to the outside, and this is where Hogan does some of his stalling routine that I know the internet doesn't like, but I actually think it's not too bad most times. They're just trying to work the crowd a little bit. These two guys got the crowd in the palm of the hand so much that this crowd even reacts positively to an extended sequence where Piper had a headlock on Hogan. Normally, this is when the crowd starts dying down, but they even care about this. So, I mean, these guys are working really well tonight. Piper is able to knock Hogan out of the ring once again. Hogan goes to leave, but Piper chases him down, and he throws Hogan to the barricade a couple of times. Piper then grabs a belt, and he whips Hogan multiple times, repaying him for what Hogan did to him last week. He starts choking him with the belt until referee Randy Anderson grabs the belt away from Piper. Piper continues to assault Hogan. He hits some scoop slams. Piper at one point goes for an elbow drop, but DiBiase grabs Piper's leg. So Piper goes outside of the ring. He goes after DiBiase. Hogan sneaks behind Piper and attacks him. Hogan now starts going after Piper's bad hip, and we start doing that portion of the match where we work over the leg. Hogan goes for the atomic leg drop, try to end the match, but he misses it. And during this time, the Giant comes down to the ring, and this is when we get kind of messy, but it's not the wrestler's fault. The Giant lifts Piper up for the choke slam, but he holds him up for a long time. But this is because a fan tried to come into the ring, so Hogan and the ref had to deal with that fan, which really kind of botched this spot, but it wasn't the wrestler's fault. The fan ran into the ring, but it was a long time. He held Piper up there, and so this part of the match kind of gets kind of messy. But we go back to the spot after dealing with the fan. And so Piper, I think he pokes Giant in the eyes or something like that. After Piper gets the Giant to let go of him, he gets the Giant to go outside of the ring, and he gets Hogan in a sleeper hold. And they go down to the mat. Referee Randy Anderson goes to lift Hogan's arm up for the 3 times. So he lifts it up, drops the first time, lifts it up, drops the second time. And then he lifts it up for the 3rd time, and Hogan's arm falls for the 3rd time.
Loved Randy Anderson's reaction when the arm fell down the 3rd time. He jumps back because he was shocked, and then he calls for the bell.
I thought Randy Anderson, he sold it beautifully. That was A+. The way he did it seemed like real shock. Like you could buy that he was actually shocked. You know, it was really well done.
Yep, A+.
So Piper does win the match.
The crowd goes nuts when they call for the bell too.
Absolutely nuts. The crowd was very happy to see Piper win. And then, of course, we get the NWO members running out to the ring. Nash and Hall come out. Piper deals with them. And then he bails as the other NWO members start coming out. The Outsiders do show frustration in the ring at the Giant. And the Giant, you can see ever so slight smile on the Giant's face. Like he's almost happy Hogan lost since the NWO didn't help him. I wonder if that's going anywhere. The Giant goes to leave, but Hogan chases after him. He gets in the Giant's face. So the Giant pushes Hogan away. He yells at the NWO members, asking them where were they for his match. Hogan tells the Giant that he dropped the ball tonight. So it appears Hogan is blaming the Giant for his loss.
Yeah, he can't blame himself for losing. Surely not.
Hogan goes back into the ring, and he tells Vincent to give him his belt as the crowd chants Hogan sucks. The NWO music plays, and Hogan yells at Piper that he is still the champion and he will kill Piper, and then he spits at the camera and poses to close the show. So even losing, Hogan still got to get some posing in.
Just got to get his music played.
But for this match, I thought both men sold the story perfectly. Great storytelling, ring psychology through the roof here. They made normal moves seem more important and exciting than they would in a typical match between other people. Definite big match feel. I think they delivered on this match. I did see that the internet was down on this match. I
like the match.
A good grade. I gave it 3 3/4 stars.
I gave it 3.5. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I honestly don't know why this match isn't looked upon better. I'm assuming because it's non-title, but I'm just kind of taking the match as it is, and the crowd was electric through most of it. So I don't know. I disagree with the consensus online about it. Dave Meltzer gave it a 1.5. So
I think that's ridiculous. I think it's just people wanting to see more moves. Again, the psychology was there, the storytelling was there. So different strokes. But overall, very good card here. Starrcade delivered for me. I thought most of the matches were good to great. I think there was only maybe one subpar match to me, and that was the women's match. Other than that, everything for me was very good. I would definitely rewatch this pay-per-view.
Oh, yeah. This is definitely one you can rewatch.
I gave the whole pay-per-view as a whole an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I think that's a fair rating, 8 out of 10.
Definitely a great ending for WCW's pay-per-view schedule here for 1996. Definitely ended it with a bang. So yeah, definitely good stuff here. We'll see what they do to follow this up on Nitro the next night.